5:30, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this presentation is about cybersecurity. My name's Tara Taylor. I teach at Eastlake Middle School in the South Bay with Sweetwater Union High School District. And I teach computer science and right now a keyboarding class. And I have been working with the cybersecurity team for the past 8 years, I believe. And Tony?
So I teach at Olympian High School. Prior to teaching at high school, I was an engineer at Raytheon for 25 plus years, doing software systems and test. I teach computer science principles, computer science A, and this year a brand new introduction to computer science with the CS discoveries. And I've been doing cyber for about 4 years now, I think.
All right. So what is cybersecurity? This came from one of my mentors in industry. He said the students have gained a phenomenal breadth of skills, everything from advanced computer administration and networking to security auditing and penetration testing. But beyond the skills themselves, the real joy as a mentor is to apply these tools in a holistic fashion to solve real world security problems. And in a nutshell, that's what the students do when they compete on a cybersecurity team. So how I got involved is I was looking for a way to challenge some of my more advanced students. This was before we actually had computer science classes for our middle school students. And so I had more of a graphics type class, but I had students that were really good with computers and were finishing early. So I was looking for a way to challenge some of those students. I received an email from a local competition stating that no experience was necessary to participate in a cybersecurity competition, which was fantastic because I'm an English teacher by trade. I taught English for 20 years before I switched over to computer science, and so I really honestly had no experience, but I decided to try it out. The very first year, we were going to compete, and we couldn't because the computers I had in my computer lab weren't even strong enough to manage the virtual images that were sent to us, but we stuck with it. And then the second year, I created another cyber team, and I was able to get a mentor right at the very end from what used to be SPAWAR, is now NIWIC. And he came out on competition day, and we spent 6 hours, and we got one vulnerability, which we were all very excited about. And that was our first year of competition. That was as much as we could do. But from then on, every year since, I have used mentors to help me out and to work with the students, and my teams continue to progress, learn skills. They take notes every time they get points for something, so that the next time through they know that they can go in and try out those same techniques and get points for them. And so this last year, we finished 10th in the nation out of nearly 800 teams for Cyber Patriot. And it says we were preparing for our 5th Socal Cup finals. We actually did compete in the Socal Cup finals, and my middle school team took 3rd. And we took 3rd behind 2 teams that actually finished 1st and 2nd in the nation in Cyber Patriot. So it's not a huge surprise that we finished behind them on the Socal Cup as well. So why teach cybersecurity? Well, students that have participated in cyber tend to have a stronger grasp of potential constraints and considerations when creating apps and web pages in CS classes, because they understand what they can and can't create with an app in terms of what may be dangerous. I may not want to add that particular feature in my app because it's not safe. And so that becomes really important. And I saw that some of my computer science students that were on my cyber team actually did mention those things as they were going and they were creating their web pages or they were creating their apps, they would say, I can't really include that because that would put too much information, or that would leave it free for other people to be able to get into my program. And so they do pay attention to those. And then students learn to work cohesively as a group. It is a team. They have to work together. They have to collaborate and figure out who's going to work on what in order to create one final skill. So they have to be able to rely on one another. And so some students that aren't always the best at working with other students actually learn here how to collaborate and work together. And then the same equity issues that arise in the CS industry are also present in the computer science industry, or in the cybersecurity industry. And so our students deserve to be introduced to cybersecurity just as much as they deserve to be introduced to computer science. And this one is really important because we assume that all on to college, but the reality is not every student has the ability to go on to college for whatever reason, whether it's financial or it's obligations at home. They can't always go straight to a four-year university. And so for students that don't, the nice part about cybersecurity is that while degrees are encouraged, for our students that aren't planning to go to college, there are a lot of certifications that students can get in cybersecurity without a college degree and get them working in the cyber industry. And then sometimes the companies will even pay for them to go back to college if they want them to have a degree. So it may be a different, more roundabout path that allows them to jump into a career and then get their college degree afterwards. So the comparison to computer science, and this is an important point, is while they both require logic and problem solving, they approach them in slightly different ways, but they do both require the same. Cybersecurity gives students a stronger understanding of the computer and how information is transmitted, which in essence will help them when they're designing apps anyway. Certain CS skills like changing IP addresses into binary code and script for writing more advanced students can be utilized in cybersecurity as well. And then some students that struggle with programming but love computers really excel sometimes in cybersecurity because a lot of times they have a list that they can go down and find vulnerabilities, but they don't have to pay quite as much attention to little details. It's more about solving a big problem. And so some of my students that didn't always feel super successful in computer science actually did excel in cybersecurity, giving them a sense of accomplishment that they may not have gotten in a normal CS class. So participation, some schools have started teaching cybersecurity courses, but sometimes it's hard to get participation because students don't know what it entails and it seems scary. A lot of my students that are part of the cybersecurity team, other students will go, you're on the cybersecurity team, you're smart. And some of my kids love that because they laugh and they just go, yeah, I'm smart. But in essence, with cybersecurity courses, if you don't get the word out there and the students don't really know what it entails, it's a lot harder to get them motivated to take it. Sometimes it's easier that way. Our programs for now, both Tony and I are doing after school clubs, which allows students to take it and it doesn't take up part of their A through G requirements. And then sometimes it's easier getting female members than getting them on a cyber team, than getting them to take CS courses, mainly because a lot of times they're trying to get through their A through G requirements. And so an after school program can help out. And by having a club, students that can't fit CS into their schedules can still participate. All right, Tony.
All right, so this is my part. So I borrowed these slides from FBI agent Tim Hammond. There was a brief that he gave for Cyber Patriot teachers and students. So I just kind of borrowed a few of his slides. So in his slide, he talked about passwords and password management. So we found a list. I don't remember exact website it is. These are the most common passwords of 2020. So you can look down through that 20 top first through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And every year it seemed like they kind of change, they shift around. So which of these constitutes the strongest password? So I know we have a really big audience out there. So whoever is here, Dr. Leo and Archie, can you guys put in the chat, what do you think is the strongest password? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? Just put it in the chat. Oh, we got somebody joining us. Welcome. All right, so we have one picked number 2 and one picked number 3. And go to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about those 3 options. So let's talk about the number of possibilities per character raised to the power. So here's some math things, right? So the first one has 8 characters, and each character has 92 possibilities. So if you take 92, raise it to the 8th power, that has the usual funny characters, upper, lowercase, funny characters, right? But it's only 8 characters. So when we go to 10 characters, that takes 62 possibilities per character, or 62 raised to the 10th power. And then we have a word that's banana, donkey, prison, that is 18 characters. And we take 18 characters and 26 possibilities per character, and 26 raised to the 18th power. So let's go to the next slide, see if I can kind of get a better graphical representation of this. So we have 1 through 18 listed there. The first one has 8 characters, the second one had 10, the last one had 18 characters. So if we do the math, we fill in the table with the 92 characters, possibilities, 62 and 26. If you multiply them up, you get a really, really big number. So you can see, like on the banana, donkey, prison, that's going to be a really big number, right? So let's go to the next slide. So if a computer, and I know he did this a couple years ago, 100 million or billion, 100 billion guesses per second, how long would it take to traverse the key space of a given password? So there's a website that I use to plug this in. It's like, how secure is my website? I think it's in the notes. But the first one would take 2 days to crack. So that's not a very strong password if it can be broken in 2 days. The next one, because it's a little bit longer, has more processing to do, it would take 7 months to crack. But the longest one, yes, the banana, donkey, prison, would take 23 million years, because there is a lot of characters and it's a lot of possibilities. So it would take 23 million years to break. All right, next slide. Yes, that is pretty amazing, isn't it? So let's talk about the competitions. As Tara mentioned, I am doing Cyber Patriot this year. In fact, my team just met this afternoon. We meet on Wednesdays after school. We had a competition last week, and we had 2 teams, a team of veteran students and, oh, hello, Mr. Kick. And we have another competition coming up. Round 2 will be in December, and then after that is like a 3rd round or state rounds. So participation is free for all girls teams. I tried to get an all-girl team this year, but I only had 2 girls, so we had just 2 teams participating. We start in September, go through late February to early March. The next thing is Socal Cyber Cup. Used to be the San Diego Mayor's Cup, and now it's called the Socal Cyber Cup. They use a Haiku Cyber Range. It's an online environment. I think it's pretty good. The students like it. There's lots of questions they have to go answer and everything. That is also free. monetary awards if they make the finals. We've never made the finals yet, but hopefully maybe this year we'll go. Practice rounds will start in February and finals go in May. So they're trying to work around the Cyber Patriot schedules. And another thing that I've done the last couple of years is Girls Go Cyber. There is a free website that both boys and girls can use. And there are many, many more things to do with competitions. Let's see, next slide. So how to get started?
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm click happy.
I guess to get the word out to students that you'll be hosting this club. So I always try to send out emails to the staff and to the students that will be hosting a club. For more female participation, make sure you're trying to get an all-girls team. Like I said, I try to do that. And last couple of years, I had an all-girl team. They were all members of the band, so they all knew each other and they just recruited their friends. So I had like an all-girl team of about 5 or so girls, but they all kind of graduated. So now it's like a rebuilding year. There is some free materials under the California Cyber Guild. And Tara mentioned to me yesterday that she's on the board of that organization. Also, good to find a mentor. So Spayward now has become NIWIC. We have a contact, Yolanda Tanner. I also used a guy named, I think it's Young, right, Dr. Leo Young? He's been involving our summer cyber camps and helping with our teams. There's also Ucsd Center for Cybersecurity. We had, I think it was a couple of years ago, a trip up there. I think some schools participated at USD. I know Lee and I were trying to get in with that school, and we participated in some of their Cyber Saturdays. I know I've taken a couple of students and taken them up there for that. By the way, my son goes to USD, but he's on quarantine now because of COVID at the school. SDSU Cyber Defense Team, there's information there. The League of Extraordinary Scientists, there's a general STEM focus. And otherwise, ask me or Tara. Our emails are listed there. And I think we have one more slide, is that it?
So just so you know, this is a former student of mine. He's now at the high school, and so he actually does cyber competitions for Eastlake High School now. And so he created this just to demonstrate a little bit. Let me see. I'm going to try and maximize it and see if you can still see it. We're going to see if it works. I don't know how well it will, but we're going to try.
Cybersecurity competitions typically include a reading that shows basic information about the situation. They also usually have some sort of score report that shows how many points have been awarded so far. Some of the basic and common vulnerabilities are the password policies. In Windows, these are found in the group policy editor. In here, we can change the minimum password length, the password complexity requirements, and how passwords should be stored. If we now check the score report, we will now have those points.
Okay, so it's just a very basic description of what, let me see if I can, there we go, of some of the things that the students are looking for and that they're taught how to do. So here are a couple of my teams over the years. Tony was talking about girls. As you can see, over the last couple of years, I've had quite a few girls teams. Last year, I had 2 all-girls teams competing, which was fantastic. And it literally was word of mouth. One girl would come and I would say, hey, do you want to see if any of your friends want to do it with you? And they would start bringing their friends in. And that's how I was able to get as many girls as I did on my teams. Okay, and Tony's team, go ahead, Tony.
So these are my teams. The one that top left is our summer cyber camp that we hosted at Olympian, and there were other schools that participated, Rancho Del Rey and Eastlake Middle. My t-shirt from Cyber 11, me in the background there with other students, and then the lower right is my all-girl team that I had a year ago.
All right. So now we're up for questions. We've got 10 minutes. We did well, Tony. All right. Okay, somebody was asking about passwords and generating passwords. And I'll be honest with you, we got this from somebody at the FBI who explained the password policies to us. I'm not as familiar with hacking programs.
Passwords.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. In essence, the students themselves it's more about what they would do if they were in charge of IT for a business and creating the policies that they would need to make in order to keep that business as secure as possible. And so right now the industry is like 8 passwords, but it could depend. If I work for NIWIC, it's going to be a lot different.
Yeah, in our course, we really don't talk about hacking tools. We are more of a defense mechanism rather than an offensive. In fact, I think it was a couple of years ago when we were teaching cybersecurity. I think Tara and I were called into the director of IT's office to figure out what are we actually teaching these kids.
Yeah.
But I think afterwards he felt very comfortable that what we're teaching is more defensive, and anything that we tell them is really found on the internet.
Absolutely. So you asked about a website that provides a list of topics commonly presented in a cybersecurity course. So I would say, I know there are a couple of different people. So CodeHS now has a cybersecurity course. And they have a list of topics that are covered. I know, who is the other one that I got there are a couple of different cybersecurity options out there that you can get that I have found. For the most part, what I've done, I haven't had for an actual course, I haven't had a list of things, but I usually use the list of vulnerabilities that we have found in the past, and then we go through and learn how to do those. I know Cyber Patriot has a breakdown of some things that they've done as well.
So when I was researching, Rich, a couple of years ago before we taught the cybersecurity course at the high school, I went through like summer universities, but the Project Lead the Way course starts off with 4 units. There's a unit on cryptography. The first unit is just basic security and passwords, those kind of things. Then we talk about more like system security and then global security. So that's kind of the different layers. We do have like packet tracing and Wireshark, some kind of tools like that. How can we get more teachers involved in cyber? Yeah, that's a good question. I think the students have to drive if there's a need for us to teach a class. So I did have a conversation today with a teacher who was a NIMSY person I met at one of the trainings. So we talked on the phone about the Project Lead the Way course and what courses are out there. Her name was Miss Cassia. I forget which school she's at. But she has been tasked to teach a cybersecurity course, and she'll probably go into the Project Lead the Way cyber course at some point. Okay.
And when you say, how do we get more teachers involved in cyber? I've been trying to do that for years. Leo, as you know, I have spoken with quite a few. Tony, I don't know how you originally got involved in doing the cyber club. I know Dan and a couple of other people, even when I'm a facilitator for code.org CS curriculum, and even during there, I will talk about cybersecurity and how important it is, and that it needs to be addressed just as much as computer science does, because the fact is that right now, a majority of who's trained in cybersecurity are military or former military personnel, and we cannot rely just on the military to produce cybersecurity specialists, because the need for cyber specialists is so great right now that we need to be training people not only from the military, but also from here. And that shouldn't be a requirement. So I just do my best to do these kind of things and get the word out there and try and talk to as many teachers as possible about how important I think it is to do cyber. Okay. Arturo, do you have like an order of questions we should answer? Because I want to answer everybody's questions.
Yeah.
He's got a couple in there. Yeah.
Mostly it's like for students that don't go to your campuses, like, and they want to learn more about cybersecurity and start up a club at their respective schools, like, how do they go about? Do they have to go to the principal, counselor, and do they have to have some sort of guidelines in order to start up the club or something that they got to be teaching? And how do they get involved with them?
I'm going to answer actually two questions in one there, because I think that that's a really good question. I had a former student who was on my cyber team, and he ended up going to Mater Dei High School, and Mater Dei did not have a cyber team. And he emailed me and asked for some of the materials. If you want any of my materials, I'm more than happy to email them to you. Just email me and I can share with you some of what I have. And I believe you have to have an advisor. So you just have to have a teacher on campus that is willing to be the advisor. And I'll be honest with you, people say, oh, so you're a cybersecurity specialist. I am by no means a cybersecurity specialist. I'm the advisor. So I am in the classroom. I'm good at helping the kids figure out how to take notes. I'm good at helping the kids figure out how to work together and that sort of thing. But in terms of the actual knowledge of cybersecurity, I can't tell you that I'm a professional at that by any stretch of the imagination. And that's when I reach out to get the mentors. And on this slide deck, hopefully you guys all have a copy of the slide deck, or you can get a copy of the slide deck. There are some contacts at NIWIC. I would definitely reach out to them because they encourage their employees to work with the schools.
Excellent.
Tony, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so like Tara said, I do have some resources too. I'll be glad to share those with you, either on my Sweetwater Schools, or I will put in another in the chat. It's my pltw.csp@gmail. There is a social media group, Cybersecurity Educators. I belong to also Cybersecurity Cyber Patriot teachers there too, and quite a bit of resources. I had a professor from National come to my class, and he gave much information too. So there's another course that's on GitHub by a guy named Derek Hubbs that I met him a couple years when I was in Kansas City for AP reading. So yeah, there's plenty of resources out there. It's just trying to find them and get them put together, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty good information. I want to respect people's time. I know this event should be done at 6 p.m. So is there any more questions that anybody want to add up? And if you want to put it in the chat, and if no, I want to go ahead and ask one more last question. Right now, virtually, how does your teams right now are active right now, virtually right now during this pandemic? And how do they do any outreach and stuff like that at the moment?
I'm gonna let Tony answer that. I was actually given 3 preps this year. So I decided to get through first semester with my sanity intact. So I was planning on actually doing cyber second semester now that I have a grasp on what I'm doing here, and we'll probably do the Socal Cup, but we didn't participate in Cyber Patriots this year just because I had too much on my plate. I couldn't do it, but I know Tony did, so I'll let him share that with you.
Yeah, so we are 2 teams meeting. Sometimes it's not consistently attended. One of the biggest challenges is that some of the students have computers, not school computers they can download the images on. Some do and some don't. So if they don't, we have like one student that's kind of sharing his screen with others and they kind of work together. So it really builds collaboration skills. Some of the students have Macs and we're trying to figure out, I know there's a different tool like VirtualBox that they can run, but it seems like a little complicated. And then one of my students was trying to change some of the settings in the BIOS to enable some virtualization to run the images. And that was a big challenge. I don't think she ever got it to do, but so those are some of the big challenges in trying to get them to work together.
Nice, nice. Well, I don't see any more questions popping up in the chat. So any last closing comments you both want to add on?
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you all. If you need any support, send me some email.
Me too.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I really want to give a big shout out to Tara and Tony for sharing their time with us and participating here, and definitely give us some more insight about cybersecurity and the clubs and how to look out for mentors. Really, and I give you an applause for that. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you all.
Have a great evening.